Let's start. Are you ready?
Oh, Murray's sitting on the chair.
All right, Shabbos, everybody. We're good in Erev Shabbos. So, this week, everybody's focused on. Last week, I got a phone call. I remember being by Shabbos in the Heights. I get a phone from Yossi Cohen, wanting to make sure that everybody in our community starts carrying because of Buffalo. I had no idea what happened. He told me right away what happened to Buffalo that day. And then, of course, we know what?
In Buffalo?
That was a week ago.
What happened in Buffalo? And people were shot in Texas.
This week in Texas.
What happened in Buffalo? 10 people were shot.
Another Meshuggah. And
all of them are the same.
The question is, of course, what do we do? I mean, what's the solution? Do we just give up? There's nothing to do. I mean, there is things we could do. We never spoke about it. But before we do, we can't give up. Which leads us to this week's parsha. So the parsha opens up in Mechukaisa Telechu. Hashem says, if you go in my ways, you follow my statutes, and you follow my rules, you do the mitzvahs. Then Asati Gishmechem Itam, I'm going to give you the rain, and we were discussing, and just watch the video, not just rain, but all gashmis, all physical pleasures. Hashem says, I'm going to give you all materialism, I'm going to give you in its proper time. Because we have to know that every blessing, sometimes we want a blessing, and not the right time. It's not that we're not going to get the blessing. We're going to get it, it just be the right time. And the Pasuk tells us, I'm going to give you all the proper physical and material blessings in the right time. If you remember that there's a time and place for everything. And it goes through all the blessings over there, and then goes the climax of the blessing, and the Sati Shalom Ba'aretz, I'm going to give you peace in the land, because at the end of the day, we can have all the money we want, all the physical materialism we want, but if we don't have peace of mind, peace around us, we're constantly looking over our shoulder, then what's it all worth? So Hashem gives us all these blessings. It's good. Life is good. And then we get the Tuesday's Pitas, get the Tuesday's Chumash, and that's where the scary parts come. If you don't listen, one curse after the next. When we read this Aliyah, we feel like we're in Texas or in Buffalo. Because, the truth is, every good person in the world feels is shaken up. And we read these psukim, we read these verses, we don't know where to place ourselves. So the custom is that the person who's reading, the chazan, the one who's reading from the Torah, he doesn't get, we don't call anybody up, he takes the aliyah himself, and he does it at he lowers his voice. Good. A little lower, a little quicker. So do it quickly so we don't scare anybody too much. But then the pasuk says, and nevertheless, they're going to still be in the land of their enemy. And for this part, the chazan, the bakara, goes back. His voice goes back up. He says, he says, I will nevertheless neither despise nor reject them. I won't proceed to annihilate them. Thereby breaking my covenant with them. I am Hashem your God. So this part gives us a little bit of hope. Hashem says, no matter what, I'm not gonna, no matter where you are, I'm still gonna be with you. But the Gemara says that this pasuk is talking about the specific times. For example, when the pasuk says, and nevertheless, neither despise them, nor reject them. So it says that the Gemara says that this is talking about the times during the Babylonians. The Gemara says during the time of the Babylonians, that they put up the Chaldeans, people during the anyway, so they put up this big golden statue, and everyone had to bow down to the statue. And there were many Jews bowing down to the statue as well. They didn't have a choice. And they had a big concert. And it was Nebuchadnezzar, I think, who said, everybody has to bow down to this statue during a certain time of the concert. And everybody was there. And everybody bowed down. Besides for that need, huh? Baal? Where's the Baal? Where's the Baal? And so they besides for Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, the Gemara says those four, they remain standing. Everyone else bowed down, they remain standing. They refused to bow down to the idol. So right away, the king calls them in. They have to come to the king. And how dare they didn't listen to the order of the king. And the king said for that, they have to go into the furnace. Just like Nimrod did to Avram. They all were put into the furnace. And of course, the Talmud says the story, the great miracle happened, and they came out of the furnace alive. And the Talmud tells us that it was because of that the Yidden of the time said, if they were able to stand up to Nebuchadnezzar, and you see Hashem protected them, we're not giving up. And that's what brought all the Yidden back to Yiddishkeit. Just because of those four standing up to Nebuchadnezzar. And that's what the pasuk means when it says, nevertheless, even though they're in the land of their enemies, I will not despise. Then it says, nor reject them. And it says, Gemara says that's talking about the time of Shimon HaTzadik, the time of the Chashmonaim and his sons, which is the Greeks, during the time of the Greeks, during the story of Hanukkah, when, again, they said the Jews are not allowed to celebrate Shabbos, they're not allowed to celebrate, they're not allowed to circumcision, they're not allowed to study Torah, and the other things they said they have to do. And Yidden didn't know where to place themselves. Many Yidden became Hellenists, and they joined the Reform movement. They didn't know where they felt they didn't have a choice. Conservative, whatever it was. And Hashem said, I send you the Chashmonaim, who stood up, those Chashmonaim who stood up to do the right thing. And this is what gave anybody the courage. So it says again, I will nevertheless neither despise and reject them, nor annihilate them. No, I won't seek to annihilate them. And the Gemara says, what does it mean to annihilate them? Because that's during this time of this Purim story, when Haman, who was the prime minister of the most powerful country at the time, he decided that he's going to do the final solution. He's going to annihilate every single Jewish person, man, woman, and child in one day. One shot, no more problems. And although that was his plan, Hashem sent Mordechai and Esther, and Mordechai and Esther stood up to Haman. They didn't bow down, and it was in that merit of them standing up for what's right and not bowing down that all the Yidden got the courage to come together and do the right thing. And then the pasuk continues. We see that I won't allow them by breaking my covenant with them. Right? And he says, what's that talking about? That's talking about the times of the Romans, when Yidden were being dispersed all over the world, and they were spreading systematically. They were taking Yidden and putting them all over. Yidden were and they didn't have the yeshivas. They didn't have the internet we have today. They didn't have a yeshiva system. So Rabbi Yehuda, in all these far-fetched places. So Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, who was friendly with the Roman government, and he was also a wealthy man. Maybe that's why probably he was friendly with them. And he was the leader. He was the Rebbe of his time, known as Rebbe. He saw that it was time to write down the Torah Shabbat, the oral Torah, to put it in writing, so that it can have people to have it wherever they are. They can have it, because they found that Rabbi Yehuda said that any place, any community where they weren't studying Torah Shabbat, they weren't studying the oral Torah, it was falling apart. He said the oral Torah is going to be the glue that sticks everybody together, that keeps everybody together. And so he put the oral Torah in writing, and it was, the Gemara says that was in honor of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, that the pasuk is saying over here that I will not break my covenant with them. And then it says like this: for I am Hashem their God. That's the pasuk. Ani Hashem Elokeichem. The pasuk says, I am Hashem your God. And that is talking about the final generation of Galos, us, where Hashem says, I am with you. We have to remember, no matter what is going on, no matter what craziness is taking place in the world, Hashem says, I am with you. And when we recognize that Hashem is with us, that should give us the strength that no matter what kind of craziness is taking place around us, we never give up hope, we never give up despair. And now that we don't give up hope and despair, we can say, okay, what's the right thing to do? What's the right thing to do? And there, the Rebbe told us what the right thing to do is. The Rebbe said that they have to introduce in the public school a moment of silence. I had the conversation with so many politicians. Every time I have a conversation with a politician, I bring it up because that's the Rebbe's mandate. And sometimes they just they're trying the same thing and again. It's not working. They really have to see the Rebbe's message that there's a higher, that people have to see. It's not, we don't live in a jungle. There is a higher authority, and we have to remember that's what we have to answer to. And the Rebbe said, if we don't do that, they're going to think, people are going to grow up thinking we live in a jungle, we can do whatever we want. So hopefully they're going to realize that Ani Hashem Elokeichem, the Lord is going to realize that we have a Hashem with us, and we realize Hashem is with us, and not just what we fear, but actually everyone's going to realize that it's all there for our benefit, and the whole world's there for Hashem, giving us the power and the courage to be able to accomplish anything without any silliness, any silly distractions. We merit to see that Ani Hashem Elokeichem, Hashem your God, build it. See you davening on page 148 with Haigu, pre Shabbos Mincha davening.